Dan with Dan and Sarah Makers, and in today's video I am going to talk about nail bags and the tools that I carry in them. I've been a carpenter for quite a few years now, and I've gone through many different renditions of what I carry and why I carry it, and it also depends on the job. But this will be 3 videos I'm planning right now on the nail bags, what I carry when I'm out working pretty much all the time. I'll also look at either a toolbox or a tool tote of some sort that a carpenter should bring with them so that they have additional tools with them during the workday. And then the third video, I'm going to look at power tools, which not only include electric but pneumatic tools that a carpenter would typically carry with them. So to start out, I'll spin around here. I have Occidental leather tool bags or nail bags, whichever you want to call them. And I've got Occidental suspenders. When I bought these nail bags, they came with just a leather belt, and that got uncomfortable over the years, so I went ahead and I bought, at the time they were cool, dead-on tools, make the nail bleed. It's a padded waist belt. I know Occidental also makes padded waist belts with lambskin wool fuzz on the inside and all that good stuff, but this was less expensive and it was available at the time. So I've used this for quite a few years now too, and it works. These bags here are probably, I'm going to say they're probably at least 15 years old. I have not used them continuously for 15 years like a normal framing carpenter would, because I've worked other jobs and I've gone to school and things like that. So, but they're still holding up pretty well. The biggest signs of wear is some of the leather on the corners here is wearing through, but still they're great. So I'm left-handed, so my tools are set up for a left-handed person, but you would kind of reverse things around for a right-handed person. A lot of these companies do sell left and right-handed versions of the bags. So as you can see here, on this side would be my hand tools, my marking tools, and some of the different layout tools that I would use on a regular basis. I've got my hammer back here. I've got a set of tin snips over here, and then this would be my tape measure, some other small tools, and then fasteners on this right side. So I'll get the table out, we'll lay these out, and we'll pull the things out one by one and show them to you. So quick disclaimer, every tool that you see here, almost every single one, is made by many different companies. There are lots of tools that are all the same quality, have a lot of the same features, so don't look at any one of these tools and say, I have to have that specific tool. But you get what you pay for with tools. That's been my experience over the years, and a lot of people agree with me. So buy quality, buy once, and that's my advice. So over here, starting on what would be my front left, I have my pencils. I typically carry 2 pencils, and there are 2 slots in the front here, and so I'll usually start out the day with 2 sharp pencils, and then they get dull, and you sharpen them throughout the day. Immediately behind that is a pocket where I keep my utility knife, and this is that Cobalt knife where it's got a retractable blade and then just a quick open clamshell style, so I can change out the blades. I don't need a screwdriver or anything like that to do that, which is really nice. Use my utility knife to sharpen my pencils. I tried one of those little rotary sharpeners at one time, and I'll show you that in a pencil and marking tool video sometime here coming up. But that actually sharpens the pencils down to such a point that they break quite regularly. So some people say this catches on things. Yeah, they do every now and again, but I haven't had it be such a problem that I don't keep carrying them here. The main time you're going to have any of your tools in your nail bags catch is when you're working around in trusses. And your speed squares, your cat's paws, your hammers, your pencils, your utility knife, anything that sticks out in any way, shape, or form, if you could fold your bag about 90 degrees, will catch. And you will drop them eventually. And that's just the way it is. So don't make a habit of working over people if you're setting trusses with, potentially dropping a hammer on their head. Going on, the outside pouch on my bags here, I'll usually carry, this particular screwdriver is a 9-in-1. So it's got a shaft that comes out. It's got basically 3 different size hex sockets that you'll run into commonly. It's got Phillips and slotted screwdrivers in number 1 and number 2, and then it's got some square drive screwdrivers. And this is awesome. Sometimes I'll carry it with me, sometimes I'll carry it in my tool bag or like toolbox, but I always usually have one of these with me. when it comes time to replace the end on an extension cord or a saw, or just anything from, you know, people that don't have the auto opening utility knives, this comes in really, really handy. So I'd recommend having a multi-function screwdriver instead of carrying 3 or 4 around. Just get one of these and you're good. The next tool that I like to carry in this outside is what they call a keel and keel holder. And this is basically just a big boy crayon. They come in multiple different colors. Some places they have different codes for different colors, but this is really nice. It leaves a really dark, good, solid line even on wet lumber of your layout. So when you're laying out studs or wall positions on one side of a chalk line snap or another, you got your keel, you can make good marks. And this is just a wooden holder with kind of a clamp down end on it. Sometimes they'll have like a little leather tassel that sticks out the end. Makes it easier to get out of your nail bags, but I usually don't keep them on there. And there are different styles of this, so some of them come in plastic. Also, I like to carry the equivalent of a Sharpie. Now there are multiple companies that are making construction grade felt tip ink markers. I've been trying these Milwaukee's here. I haven't tried them completely, so I don't know what my overall final opinion is on them, but they claim they write in wet environments, which is one of the downfalls of the Sharpie. Is as soon as that nib gets wet, they're pretty much garbage, even if they're brand new. Even the industrial ones are that way, which is kind of disappointing. When you're laying walls out on green concrete, that's enough to ruin a Sharpie. So we'll keep trying these Milwaukee's, see what we think. So far, so good. So that's my outside pouch. Then I go on these nail bags, and most nail bags nowadays have it. They just have a slot that's in between the two pouches, and that's where you carry your speed square. So that just drops in there. Really convenient. And then in the larger pouch, in here, I've got a Torpedo Level, and they make different styles and sizes, but usually a 9 to 12 inch is about what you're going to carry. So a typical Torpedo Level is 9 inches, which this is. So I just throw that in my pouch here. That helps for small plumbing and leveling operations. I don't rely on a Torpedo Level for, you know, plumbing up a wall or putting in door trimmers or anything like that plumb. I'll get a bigger level, basically the biggest level I can get and fit in that area I will use. I also have a pair of these end nippers here. These pliers are really nice because every now and again you will get a nail that will hit something and it'll curl up in the wood and it will not come out for the life of you and you can't cut it off. This is especially true when you're nailing off hardware like Simpson or other type of metal fastener connector plate hardware. Sometimes you'll hit another nail or something like that and that nail curls up. You can't pull it out with your hammer for some reason. You can get these on there, get it flush to the face, grip the nail just enough to make some dents in it, and then you can roll it and just keep gripping and rolling and pull that nail out finally, and you can get some pretty gnarly messed up nails out with one of these pairs of pliers. The next thing that I have here in the small pouch at the top is my chalk line. And like I said, many different companies make these. They all do the same job. This is an Irwin. It's kind of bulky, and it's one of, again, the rubber armored things that are becoming so popular, and it leaks like crazy, but pretty much all chalk lines do. So it's a 100-footer. It's got a gear reduction system, so you can reel that line in really quick. So that tends to work pretty well so far. Then on the back of this pouch, I carry a cat's paw, which is basically a double-ended miniature pry bar, and it's designed with the points here on both ends to dig in under a nail head specifically without marring too much of the wood up. You'll still mar it up trying to get things out, but it minimizes the surrounding damage. So this is really good for pulling out all the misinstalled nails. The one thing that this cat's paw has that a lot don't have is it's got this, what they call the dimpler on the backside. And if you really don't want to mess up the wood, you put this centered over the nail that you're trying to extract on the side. You hit it with your hammer right here, and it causes a dimple that you can then get the cat's paw teeth under. So this is made by Stiletto, and it is a titanium cat's paw, so it's spendy. I would only recommend using one of these if you're going to use a titanium hammer, because a steel hammer will mar it up. The titanium ones don't. So for the expense, pair it with a titanium hammer, or else you're going to get a marred up cat's paw. But the weight reduction is nice, especially when you're carrying it around all day long. Moving on to my hammer. I carry the hammer and just this hammer loop in the back. This is a Stiletto hammer, so this is a titanium hammer also. Really nice. I've had this for quite a few years. I've reset the head because it was getting loose, and we'll go over that again in another video. It's got the magnetic nail setter on top, so like in my hammer video, I can set the nail right there, set that nail, and keep driving nails. So it's got the curved handle and kind of a framing head here. So I really like the hammer. Again, I've had that for quite a few years. I had to reset the head once it got loose, but other than that, it's a great hammer. I've got a pair of tin snips on the back here. It's in a Wiss brand pouch because it comes with Wiss pliers or tin snips, but I've actually gone over to these Midwest brand snips. They're about the same cost as a Wiss, but they tend to cut a lot cleaner and last a lot longer. These are green, and so these are left-hand cuts, but you can get a yellow or a red, which would be a straight or a right-handed cut. Normally, a carpenter doesn't need these on their bags because you will use snips, if you don't know the trick, to cut banding on lumber bundles. Usually you just use your hammer claw and actually twist it kind of like a wrench, and that'll snap the metal ones. The plastic and fiberglass strapping is a little bit more challenging to cut. It doesn't break as easily with a hammer, so sometimes the snips are good for that. Also, I've done a lot of sheet metal work in the past, so I like having a pair of snips available. And then the final one would be where you're putting in long hurricane straps or structural ties where they come in a coil in a box, and you have to cut 8-foot section or 12-foot section. You pull that out, and you can use your snips to cut it without having to get a grinder and do any issues with hot work if you're on a job where that's a concern. On my right hand side, I've got my tape measure and the tape loop, and just a simple tape measure. Like I said, try and always get at least a 30-footer. I like the Stanleys. They're small, they fit in there. The Fat Maxes and all those big rubber armored things are too big to fit in here, so a lot of people carry them in their outside pocket, which to me, in my outside pocket, I'll carry a smaller type of nail. In this case, these are Ticos. I would carry maybe strips of 8-penny gun nails also. And then typically I'll carry a smaller nail. If I'm doing straight framing, I'll put my 8-penny nails in the outside pocket because they're small. And then in the inside main pocket, I'll put my 16-penny hand drive nails in there. And then I'll also put my larger strips of gun nails also in there. So inside of this pocket, we've got a few more little pouches or leather loops. Starting on this side here, I've got this Dude Tool all-in-one blade wrench and drill key. So that fits in there. So that takes care of any time I need to change out the blades on my skill saw or change out a drill bit. I've got one tool that does it all. I also carry a chisel. These are not fine woodworking chisels. There aren't a lot of situations where you need a fine woodworking chisel. So there are a few little dings in the blade. I'm not worried as long as it's fairly sharp. It's nice to have a chisel. Probably one of the most common things you'll use a chisel for is when you've been putting down floor decking and you've got construction adhesive out and you got some smush out and you went to lunch. You've got to come back and you're ready to put that next sheet down. You've got a bunch of adhesive that's set. That's the tool to use to try and get all that adhesive off. Finally, I've got 3 more tools here. I've got a big punch. And this thing here is the equivalent of a carpenter's nail set. The little small nail sets with points on them, you try and set a 16-penny nail that's sticking out. You'll pretty much bend the ends of those all the time. This one's good. It's long. You can hold on to it. You can really hit it. You can sink those nails in really nice, and the head on this is about the same diameter as a 16, so that's really nice. I'm outside of OSHA regulations on the end of this, and again, I'll show you how to do this, but the end of this set or punch is mushroomed out, so that's a no-no, and I wouldn't be allowed on a job, hypothetically, if you work for a strict enough contractor or company. Anytime you get mushrooming like that, the risk is that these little curls will actually splinter off, and they can hit you in the eye, embed in your skin, or just plain hurt. So I'll show how to grind that and clean it up. I also carry an awl, which not a lot of people do that anymore, but basically it's just a small wooden awl with a handle on it. You can just drive it into a deck. A lot of times I'll use it for holding the end of my string line as I'm snapping out stuff by myself, so I don't have to have a second person holding the end. It's real quick, it's easy, you jam it in there, you snap your line, you go back, you recover it. It's quicker than using a hammer and an 8-penny nail and having to pull it all the time. So it's pretty quick and easy. And then the final tool that I carry, again, this one there's some debate as to whether some carpenters can carry this or not, but it's just a little air chuck. And it's basically like a pen. It's got the air chuck fitting on the end, and it's just twist open, and so you can regulate how much air comes out. This, why I say is kind of a debate as to whether or not you can carry it, is because with OSHA regulations, you can't use a direct air gun like this. There's no siphon anti-injection nozzles on the side of this like an OSHA-approved air blower nozzle has. So if you were to stick this against your skin, you could potentially inject air into your skin, and that's a bad thing. So also the other thing is you'd be using straight air line pressure, which is around 90 to maybe potentially up to 120 psi. And again, with regulations, you can't use any compressed air to blow things off above 30 psi. So a lot of people don't know that and don't worry about it. And if you work for a company with fewer than 10 people, OSHA doesn't care about you. As awful as that sounds, that's what the regulations are. So bigger companies, you'll see a lot more of the specifications on what you can and can't use. Small companies, they pretty much don't care, because OSHA or whatever state agency is taking the place of OSHA, they don't have the time to go and police all these small jobs. So anyways, that's a quick rundown. Maybe not so quick, but a rundown on the tools that I carry in my nail bags. Like I said, I've been doing it for quite a few years, and this is what I've gotten down to. So in the next one, we'll look at the toolbox or tool bag, and we'll see what kind of other tools a carpenter should have available to them on a job site. So anyways, this is Dan with Dan and Sarah Makers. Have a good one. Bye.